All right. Hello, everybody. Thanks so much for coming to our session with the Pannell Center for Black Church Studies. And today we have invited the academic dean for the Pannell Center for Black Church Studies and assistant professor of mission theology and culture, as well. His team, Elise, is here with us. So Professor Dwight Radcliffe Jr. joined the faculty of Fuller as assistant professor of mission theology and culture in 2019, and was named at the same time as the director of the William Pannell Center for Black Church Studies. In 2020, he was named as academic dean for the Pannell Center. Prior to coming to Fuller, Dr. Radcliffe taught at Vanguard University's Azusa Pacific University and the Southern California School of Ministry. And welcome, Professor Radcliffe. And yeah, please take over.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks for allowing us just a few minutes to introduce and talk about the Pannell Center. As Ken said, my name is Dr. Dwight Radcliffe. I'm the academic dean for the William E. Pannell Center for Black Church Studies. And Elise is with us. Elise is our program coordinator. So Elise is the gatekeeper. She makes all things work. She makes sure that everything gets done when it's supposed to get done, and reminds me when I'm slacking on my job. So Elise is the gatekeeper. I've got a slideshow, very brief slides that I'll share with you all. Let me just make sure I'm doing this correctly. Wonderful Zoom world that we live in here. Nope, that's wrong. Give me one more try. Let's go with just, hold on one second. Let's try it one more time. Let's go with, just when you think you've got everything down to a science, things get switched around on you.
Yeah, I'm so glad I'm not alone. It happens to
No,
me
sir.
all the time.
I just had everything switched. My monitors are switched. My monitors at the office go one way. My monitors at home go a different way. So, just depends on where I am that day. But I think we got it here. So let's see.
Take your time.
All right. Do you all see the full screen?
We see the master slideshow.
Oh, you see two? You see two windows?
Yes.
Oh man. Oh, why it keeps doing it? Let me switch one more time. Hold on. And I'm ready to go. Who do we have left?
Hello, I'm Dexter Hardy. I'm calling from Suffolk, Virginia.
All right.
And
Anyone
Ronald?
else want to announce themselves? All right. No pressure. No pressure. Boom. How about now?
It's still the same.
Ah!
It's still the same.
All right, let's do this. We're going to forget the slides. I switched the monitors, it still didn't work. So let me talk about the Pannell Center for a minute. The William E. Pannell Center for Black Church Studies started in 1972. We are actually this year celebrating our 50th anniversary. So we started in 1972, but initially it doesn't start off as a center. It starts off as a program, an experimental program, the Theological Studies program for Black ministers, and a Black Leaders Institute. These two programs start off at the same time. One of them is more for lay leaders in the community. The other one is serving as a bridge program to allow clergy in the African-American church and community who are established, who most likely have a bachelor's degree, but have not yet, maybe don't meet all of the standard, at the time, white normative criteria for entering into seminary. So the program starts as a bridge program to allow a Black clergy into the seminary. The hope is that it will foster a welcoming atmosphere to bring in more specifically African diasporic clergy. And then also there's a hope that that diversity will help Fuller live more fully into its call to represent the global kingdom. So that happens in 1972. The leadership program kind of phases out after the first year, doesn't really pick up traction. But the theological studies program for Black ministers, I believe there were 13 initial people that came in. And of those first 13, I believe the statistics are 9 or 10 of them went on to pursue their degrees in that first cohort. So the program takes off. It's pretty successful. And then within a couple of years, it folds and it turns into an official center. And then over the years, it goes through several iterations as far as name changes. It's the Black Studies program. It's the African American Church Studies program. It's African American Studies. Then we changed it to honor our eponym, Dr. William E. Pannell, who was the first Black trustee and one of the first Black professors at Fuller. And so we changed it to William E. Pannell Center for African American Church Studies. And then just recently, under my tenure, we spoke with Dr. Pannell and with our vested parties, our vested interests, and talked about changing it from African American to Black. And there's several reasons for that. Number one is the fact that Black has seen a resurgence as far as the actual name and title. A lot of African American literature has been replaced with the title Black, as there is just a resurgence in the reclamation of Black as beautiful, as proud, as historic. And then the other thing is that we are an international seminary. We are an international institution. And so what was happening is over the last 10 to 15 years, a rift began to grow between our African international students and our African American students. And many of our African international students did not feel as though the Pannell Center at the time for African American Church Studies had anything to do with them or had any space for them. So it was really important for us to make sure that all of our students of the African diaspora, especially our students who are biracial or students who identify as Afro-Caribbean or Afro-Latina, it was really important to make sure that all of our students felt that the Pannell Center was a home for them. So that move was made. Dr. Pannell signed off and he was in full agreement. And so we are known as the William E. Pannell Center for Black Church Studies. Somebody's asking, go ahead, Rafat.
Yeah, are there only just African American separated in some churches?
Say the question again.
So I mean, African American not involved in multicultural churches. They are just in some locations together as African American.
I'm not sure I understand the full question. Are you asking, are there other churches?
I mean, African American, are there churches for them only? There is no multicultural churches that included African American?
No, that's not true. There are multicultural churches, but the Black church in America has a specific history, that the Black church in America starts specifically out of white, racist, slave-owning Christianity, an aberration of Christianity. So the African American or the Black church in America comes out of a specific history and it has a specific trajectory. So when we talk about Black church studies, the other reason why the last piece of why we changed the name was also because when it comes to our academic guilds, our fields, we talk about preaching, it's usually not African American preaching, it's Black preaching. When we talk about theology, it's usually not African American theology, it's Black theology. When we talk about all these other things, it's usually Black. So the term Black speaks more globally and is more honest about the diversity within the African diasporic community. But specific to your question, there is a such thing as the African American or the Black church in America, but that experience, it crosses over into other places. So for instance, if I as an African American attend a multicultural church, the Black church in America has still had an impression upon me and has still been formational for me in some way. So that's why the Black church studies is the focus of what we do, but that is not just African American. It is, we have students and I have colleagues who are Jamaican, and many of them don't identify as African American. First and second generation don't identify as African American, but the umbrella of Black will better captures that.
Thank you. Thank you very
Huh?
much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Let me talk a little bit about what we do, and then definitely I'm not going to be long, so we'll have plenty of time for Q&A and dialogue. But one of the things, the major things that we do is, one of the things we do is student advocacy. We have to name that we are still a predominantly white institution. Fuller is still a predominantly white institution. Now, whether that pans out in the actual demographics from this latest incoming class, or whether it talks about specifically the history of the institution or the way in which white normativity has manifested itself within our institution, it is what it is. And I know that I have this conversation with my good friend and colleague, Dr. Daniel Lee, who is the academic dean for the Center for Asian American Theology and Ministry. We have this conversation back and forth all the time about race and the Black-white binary. And his push is that the Black-white binary oftentimes consumes and monopolizes the entire conversation on race. And I agree with him that the conversation on race is much more complicated than a Black-white binary. But my pushback with him is always that the Black-white binary, however, is always the thermometer for the honest race relations. In other words, that because of the way the Portuguese and European colonizers, the way that they have structured race, porcelain whiteness is on one end of the spectrum and dark blackness is on the other end. Now, there are myriad of relationships and technicalities in between, but those are your polar opposites. So much so that if it doesn't work for Black people regarding race relations, then it's not truly working for the entire whole. So you could have something that works well for Asian American communities, for our Latin American communities, but still leaves out the Black community. But you're very hard pressed to find initiatives and historic achievements that the African American or Black community has made that have not pulled everybody else along with them. So that's why we're constantly going back and forth. But in an institution like ours, it's important for our students who identify as Black or part of the diasporic, the African diaspora, need to have places where they can go, where they can know that there are voices that will advocate for them, that there are people who sit in meetings who will be advocating for the things that those particular students need. So we're often working with the Office of Student Concerns, our Chief of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. We work with several student groups. We help to oversee, to sponsor the African Student Fellowship, which meets about monthly. We have Black doctoral students that meet, that we try to help and sponsor. We also have course offerings that are done through the Pannell Center. Through my work with the Academic Programs Office, we make sure that courses like theology and hip hop culture, introduction to Black theology, African roots of Black theology, urban evangelism, race and evangelicalism, that these Near Eastern and African Christianity, that these courses are offered, preaching in the African American tradition, African American spirituality, making sure that these courses are offered and that they're offered regular enough for all students to be engaged in them, but also for our students that come that want to make sure that when they get their degree, when they leave Fuller, they've not just been taught Bart and Moltmann and Tillich, but they also know voices like Cone and Douglas and West, in addition. We also promote Black culture and scholarship. One of the things that we host is our Emerging Black Scholars Program, EBS, where we take a group of Black students every year through a one-year directed mentoring program. And we have like small living room sessions, kind of fireside chats with different scholars and leaders. We've met with people like Willie Jennings. We've met with people like Jamar Tisby is hosting is going to be our guest in our next Emerging Black Scholars. We've got local clergy like Pastor Gene Birch, who's going to be hosting one of our EBS sessions. And it's an opportunity for our scholars of color, specifically our Black students, to make sure that they are being formed. When I took over this position, I reached out to a lot of Black alum and sat and broke bread with them, went out to eat, and asked them about their experience at Fuller. And almost all of them said to a T, I got a degree from Fuller. Fuller is reputable in a lot of places, but almost all of them said, I didn't feel formed. I didn't feel as though formation was really happening. And so it's important for us to make sure and recognize that for many in the Black community, formation doesn't always happen inside the confines of a classroom. That oftentimes formation happens in small groups. It happens across over a meal or over a cup of coffee, or when somebody's in trouble or when somebody needs to talk. So we make sure that we do that. We also have strategic partnerships with churches and community organizations. Last year, we were able to help, I think, 3 or 4 students get internships through different churches and organizations. We make sure that we have administrative representation, as I spoke about earlier, and we make sure that we provide space and place. It's really important, and I'll share just briefly. When I came to Fuller in 2008, 2009 as an MDiv student in the School of Theology back then, when I finished my degree as a Black pastor, I felt as though I had a lot of equipment and tools, and I felt like many of the students that I talked to, but I didn't really feel formed. I really felt like there was some formation missing there for my specific context and for my specific calling. When I came back in 2015 to do my PhD in what was then the School of Intercultural Studies, about halfway through my journey, the School of Intercultural Studies was celebrating its 50th, I think its 50th year celebration. And so one of the things that they did was they put up pictures of every faculty member, full-time, all the faculty, full-time faculty members of the last 50 years. They put up publications of their books all over Glasser Hall, and we had a big banquet and all. It was great. But as a PhD student at the time, as I walked through those halls, it was further alienating for me because there was not a single African American in the 50-year history of the School of Intercultural Studies. So when I was hired in 2019 in the School of Intercultural Studies at the time, I was the first African American. Let that set in for me. In 2019, 2019, year of our Lord and Savior, 2019, I was the first African American to be hired full-time in the School of Intercultural Studies. So it's important for me. I fully recognize how alienating sometimes predominantly white spaces can be. And so the Pannell Center has physical space where you can come, you can sit, and if you understand what I'm saying, you understand what I'm saying. If you don't, I'd be happy to unpack it at a later date and time. The artwork is Black, the vibe is Black, the space is Black. And so it's one of those spaces where you can walk into and you can feel as though you don't have to code switch, you don't have to figure anything else out, you don't have to feel alienated, isolated. It is a place where a lot of our students just feel home. It's a breathing space for many of them. They come in, and after being bombarded by a lot of different theological ideology, it's a place where they feel safe. We have space in the back, especially now that for those that would be physically on campus, our library, because of our downsizing, has had to reorganize space. And so there's no private study rooms in the library right now. And so a lot of our students, we've got Black PhD students that need just an office space for 3 to 4 hours, to write, to study. Many of them can't do it at home. And so we offer space and place. One of the last things that we do is we offer academic resources, making sure that students have the books that they need. If there's books that are not in the library, we want to make sure that we get those resources. If they're not available as electronic resources, we push to try to do what we can to get those resources available. And other than that, we host a myriad of events. We have kind of a rhythm. Beginning of the year, we have living room sessions where I meet with first-year students, returning students, and online students specifically, and help navigate this space. What are you thinking about doing after graduation? Are you thinking about doing doctoral work? Are you looking at going into certain fields? How can we connect you with resources or with mentors that might be good? How do we make sure that you're navigating the courses that you're taking that best position you at the end of your academic journey to do what you believe you've been called to do? We have our living room sessions. We have our Black welcome, where we have our Black faculty, Black staff, and Black administrators that come in, and just so people know who these people are. If I need to go to somebody, if I pass somebody, if I see somebody in a Zoom space, how do I know who this person is, and how do I know I can go to that person? We have our MLK lectures, our MLK celebration that's 3 days long. We have our Black graduation ceremony. We have our summer seminar series that takes place usually over the summer at lunchtime, 4 days straight, 4 or 5 days straight, where we deal with topics that Fuller is uniquely situated to speak into that are germane to the Black church and Black community. So we, one year we did mental health in the Black church. Another year we did theology of protest. Yeah, Shelly, get Elise's name and just send Elise an email and make sure that you are on the Pannell Center email address. Matter of fact, anybody that would just want to make sure that you want to receive information from the Pannell Center, if you just in the chat, if you would just drop your email address, and that way Elise can copy those add them to our bulletin. We'll make sure that you get information. And then we try to provide research opportunities. Funding is always a big issue. So I am working, our president is working, our administrators are working at getting more funding. We currently have just 2 scholarships for master's level students that are, again, working in Black Church Studies, and 2 fellowships for PhD students. They're also renewable. So right now we have no fellowships available. Both of our PhD students are in their 1st or 2nd year, so they can renew for up to 3 years. Our master's students can only renew for up to 2 years, for up to a maximum of 2 years. But both of our master's recipients were brand new last year. So I would imagine that unless one is graduating, I don't think so. Those funds are locked up, but there's other ways that we try to help students navigate. What are outside sources? What are some outside places that you can go to get funding? And what are some places that you can go to start? For some of you that might be more advanced in your academic career, how do we get you to start presenting papers? We've got conferences coming up, the Meacham School of Theology, American Academy of Religion, Western Region, Society for Pentecostal Studies. How do we get you into those spaces so you can start presenting your work and get academic feedback and get used to and accustomed to receiving that, so it helps build your academic career? I think that's the big stuff that we do. I am here on campus physically. Elise is here physically on campus, but we are mindful of our online students and distance students. So we try to make sure that everything that we do since 2-3 years ago is in some kind of a hybrid form. There are some things that will physically take place on campus, but for the most part, everything that we do, you can participate via Zoom. We try to make that available. With that said, at least if there's anything that I've missed that you want to clean up or mop up on aisle 6, you let me know. Otherwise, we'll open up for questions and dialogue.
Just wanted to add that you did an excellent job, and I'm excited to meet all of you.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, teaching. I have another question. Sorry. So to be clear enough, there is organization allocated to Fuller or partnership with Fuller for African American or for Black churches?
There's partnerships, yes, but a lot of what we do, there are several students who are not Black, who are allies of our centers, supporters of our center, who work closely with our center. So yes, there is absolute partnership between Fuller and the African or the Black church and Black community. But those partnerships, while their target is to assist and to speak for on behalf of Black students, there are always relationships, partnerships, and allies that we have outside of the community or the church specifically.
Thank you.
I'm actually an advisor on, oh God, I can't remember the name of the actual student group, but it's a student group led by 3 or 4 white students, and it's basically on decentering white normativity. And I'm one of their sponsors. I'm one of their faculty sponsors. So.
I am originally from Africa because I am from Egypt. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, and we're going to debunk that narrative that Egypt exists outside of the continent of Africa. Anyone else? Questions, comments?
I'm just trying to navigate my first year at first quarter at Fuller. I'm a full-time working, almost empty nester, just trying to follow the call of God. And yeah, I feel slightly overwhelmed, but I'm also very excited, and I really appreciate all that you shared today.
Yeah, as a fellow late life academic, I feel your pain. It can be overwhelming. Absolutely. You're going to get 53 emails a day. You're going to get all these information just thrown at you. You're going to feel like you're missing stuff.
Right.
And I would just say, take your time, go through it, absorb what you can, and know that you are not by yourself.
Okay.
And always ask for help when you need it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that perspective.
Yeah, and it's great to hear that because I feel the same way. I'm a first-time student, and my background is not in theology. My background is in health sciences, medical. So this is my first time of actually having any formal training in theology. So I'm very excited and to study and to learn, and I look forward to all the coursework. But I do feel so overwhelmed because I see I don't have training in theology, and although I'm a minister, I'm an associate minister at my church, I'm not formally trained. So I want to get more information and to be better equipped, to serve, to serve the Lord.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's absolutely admirable. And yes, you're going to feel overwhelmed. Theological education is, if I can be so blunt, it's a separate culture. It's a whole nother thing. So it's almost like I worked in law enforcement for 6 years. Law enforcement is a separate culture. There's language that you would only use there. There's stuff that only those people get, and so when you step into theological education, it's really the same thing. There's language, there's culture, there's traditions, there's expectations. And so it can be daunting to walk into it, not at 18 or 19 or 22, and trying to take it all in. All I can tell you is that you will get there. It will be some stretching. There will be some stretching. There will be some long nights. There will be some days where you're going to take the book and throw it across the floor. There's going to be some of that, but embrace it, because if God has you here, there is purpose and there's destiny and meaning in it. And I remember when I came to Fuller, I'm telling you, when I came to Fuller, I came because I just wanted to be a better pastor. That's it. I didn't come here to get anointed. I didn't come here for nobody to lay hands on me. I could already preach. I was already called, but I knew that if I was going to pastor in this day, I knew you just threw one across the room last week. Yeah, I know you're feeling. But I knew that I needed more, and Fuller has given me that. But I had no idea. My wife knew, but she knows Jesus better than me. She knew, but I had no idea what trajectory God had for my life at that moment. I just was obedient, as I think Shelley said. I was just trying to obey God and be better trained, Dexter, trying to get what I could to be better at what I knew God had called me to do. And in the midst of that, God began to reveal things and show things. And so I would also say, know why you came here, because your why is going to be important for keeping you grounded. When you start hearing stuff that goes against, that rubs you the wrong way, that maybe challenges you, know why you're here. But then at the same time, be open for God to make moves, right? I'm reminded of the Old Testament, that when the children of Israel were walking and wandering, right? Pillar of fire by night, pillar of smoke by day. But when the pillar stopped, they stopped. But when the pillar moved, they moved. And so just know that that pillar may have rested right here at Fuller for you, but be here, be present, but allow God to be God. And God might pick you up and move you in slightly different directions and take you into slightly different platforms. But
Right.
yeah.
I certainly feel that way because I was in the military for 30 years and I never thought God would lead me this way, but he has. And I should have want to be, embrace that and be engaging and, and do what he's called me to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Crystalline is saying she spent some time at another seminary and looking specifically for a program of Black studies. Yeah. And you guys keep an eye out if you're interested. Fuller had, when I started, I came here to do an MDiv with a concentration in Black church studies. And because of registration and some other things, registrar accreditation, the concentration went to an emphasis. And then we did away with all of those things because it was just really difficult for the institution to keep offering courses. But I've been working with the Academic Programs Office, and it might be as soon as fall, you might be able to actually get on your degree a concentration in Black church studies again. We've been working on it. It's not going to cost the institution anything because the Pannell Center has been working through the years to make sure that we had consistent course offerings anyway. And we have enough courses that we're offering to where somebody could take the electives needed and do it. So it may be announced as early as fall, but for Crystalline and others, you can actually, if we're able to roll it out in the fall, you can actually graduate and have it on your degree that you have in Master of Divinity or whatever your degree is with a concentration in Black Church Studies. So that's here. And then just aside from that, we do have courses and we have some great faculty. I don't know if you guys have had a chance yet. He's been on sabbatical. He's on sabbatical right now, but Dr. Vince Bantu is a beast and a theological genius. And we've got some, if you get a chance to take any courses in the School of Psychology, most of our Black faculty are in the School of Psychology. Out of the, I think we have 8 Black faculty right now. Only 3 of us are in School of Mission and Theology. Everybody else is in the School of Psychology. But we've got some phenomenal voices over there too. So if you get a chance to take a class as an elective or something, especially for clergy working in the Black community, Black church, you're gonna need it. You're gonna need it. That's an awesome opportunity as well. Anyone else? I'm keeping up with the chat and I'm trying to respond. Well, I don't want to force nobody. And I'm the kind of leader where if we ain't got nothing to talk about, ain't no need to have no meeting. So I'm not gonna hold you hostage just so that I could hear myself talk. I hear myself talk enough. I teach and preach. I hear myself all the time. If all hearts and minds are clear, I'll give you one more chance, but if all hearts and minds are clear, we'll turn it back over to Ken.
Just a quick question. Did you mention aisle 6? What did that mean?
Oh, clean up on aisle 6. It's just a random number. You know, like when you go to the grocery store, you make a mess. Somebody's got to come clean up your mess. So that's why I was asking Elise if I made a mess, if I spilled anything. You know, she's got to order the cleanup on aisle 6, wherever I was.
Well, Dr. Radcliffe, your background is very impressive, especially about the law enforcement. And if it's not because Fuller and, you know, I probably will be in the law enforcement too, driving a deputy sheriff vehicle.
Yeah, LA County.
Yeah. So
LA County.
yeah.
Yeah. My wife did 10 years before she got injured. But yeah. Oh.
Amen.
Anybody else?
Do you all have any, the Pannell Center have any upcoming events?
Yeah, so where are we now, Elise? We've got something specifically for Black doctoral students coming up.
Yes, we have our Black Doctoral Student Luncheon that's on April 8th. And it's also virtual if anyone's interested or knows a Black doctoral student. And we're just going to chat, lunch is on us, and yeah.
Yep, we've got that. Make sure next year, in this summer, applications open up for our Emerging Black Scholars Program. If you think you could benefit from being in a smaller cohort of other Black scholars and wanting to learn and hear from them, then apply for that. Open applications, it'll be in the newsletter, goes out, the information goes out in the newsletter. Also spread the word that on June, at least help me with the luncheon, a banquet.
June 3rd, Friday, June 3rd.
On Friday, June 3rd, that's the banquet, or that's a Black grad?
Friday, June 3rd is the banquet, yes.
Okay. On Friday, June 3rd, y'all see why Elise is so wonderful and important. On Friday, June 3rd, we are celebrating our 50th anniversary. The Pannell Center, we're having a fundraising banquet where we're going to honor our living legends, some of those that have helped to lead the Pannell Center over the first 30 years. And so it is a fundraiser with proceeds going to scholarships. So if you know some people that are feeling extra generous and some people that want to make sure that students of the African diaspora have scholarships and things like that, please have them purchase a ticket, have them purchase a table. And those that want to also be virtual, there will be a donation price for those that want to do virtual. We're trying to raise money for scholarships. All right. And then summer seminar series will be going out. We haven't settled on our topic and title yet. Those are kind of the big things going on right now. Yeah, would you agree?
Yes, absolutely.
And I'd like to invite everybody to the a plug-in to the All Nations Foods and Art Festival as well. And I love to be in touch. And also, I love to stay close contact with Pannell Center and see if there's any opportunity we could collaborate on creating spaces, opportunities for students to give back to their cultural community and to support their peers and to engage faculty student engagement uh, and all sorts of engagement opportunities. So I'll be in touch.
Thank you all for coming to my TED Talk. Hope it was worth your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, see you all soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dwight. Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Our next one will be Asian American, if you are interested.
At
Talk
2
soon.
o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any
Okay,
questions? Any question about the rest of the week schedules? Anyone? Dexter, Ronald, Chrislyn?
No questions.
Okay. Well, tomorrow we'll have newly admitted student reception and also the career and professional development session, and those are good, very good opportunities to connect with the campus resources. So please come. Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Blessings. Thank you.